All right, joined here right now with Coach Vince. If you could just give me just kind of a brief background of your basketball history and what you've done, coaching, playing, all that.
Sure. Well, my name is Vince Macaulay, and I started playing in Brixton, South London, with the legendary Jimmy Rogers. He groomed me and made sure that I understood the fundamentals of basketball, you know. So I played at that level, and then I moved on to play at the BBL level, which is our top level here in the UK. I played at the London Docklands. I moved over, played at the Hemel Royals, which I became the owner of. We had to relocate then to Milton Keynes, which is a small city just outside of London, and we ran a BBL team there for 15 years.
Okay, so you played professionally.
That's right.
Own the team now.
That's right.
Also coach.
And I now coach. I coached before. I took a break from coaching because my philosophy was to try and bring some people on. So in Milton Keynes, I developed a number of coaches who also coached the men's team. Because we lost our facility in Milton Keynes and there was no more potential for a facility in Milton Keynes, I approached the Olympic Park around about 2012 to find out what the legacy was for some of the buildings on the park. So I found out there was a building like this one here, the Copper Box, and they had no plans for basketball within here. So I put a proposal here and we launched the London Lions here in 2013. So we've been a couple of seasons here now.
Good, okay. I want to work backwards. All right, so you know, I've told you our background. We do skill development back in the States. I know you get a ton of videos from college players. So I'm going to start there and I'm going to work it backwards from there because I once was a player, played in Manchester myself, so I played over here as well, so I'm familiar with the environment. What is something that you see a lack of in players when they send you film? Something that they don't have?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think if I say that the first thing we try to do is look for a guy that we believe will fit into this level of basketball. That's critical firstly, before their skills. What you don't want is a player who's not at this level. And what you don't want is a player who thinks he should be at a much higher level.
Absolutely.
So you've got to find a player who's hungry. That's number one. Number two, you've got to find a player who's used to being a key cog within his wheel. We've had players come over here from very, very good NCAA Division I schools. But actually when they get over here, they're not used to being an integral and key part of the team. They've only been a cog in the wheel at a very, very successful school. So that immediately targets what we're looking for in terms of players. And then when we watch the film on players, we want to see how they react in game-tight situations, towards the end of games, towards executing their plays, when the team is down, how they react to that. When they're up, then they continue to be professional. So those are the kind of things that we look for in and amongst their skills.
Okay, so some of that is body language then?
Absolutely. Body language is absolutely key, you know. You want a guy that has a lot of energy. You know, they're over here as stars, but also we have very good English players to complement that. So you're looking for a nice little balance. That's not to say they can't play here and then move on to a higher level, but they as players themselves will develop while they're here. They'll develop as men. And they'll develop in understanding what it's like to be away from home before going to maybe some more challenging places, shall I say. You know?
Right, and that's something that you don't just start as being a former pro. You don't just start that at 21, 22. That's stuff that's been instilled. Okay, so let's keep on going back then. All right, so high school level, middle school level, that's the grade levels obviously that we deal with a lot, okay? We see a lot of just a lack of balance. Actually, 3 weeks ago, I went up to Wisconsin and interviewed Sonny Parker, who's Jabari Parker's dad, right? He was my AAU coach. We had a great talk about basketball development. Obviously, he's a lifer in it. He was talking about players don't have a platform to make mistakes. They don't have fun. And it's probably a little bit too much games when they're younger and not as much focused on development. Now, I always caution and say, hey, each level and each kid, you got to do what's best for you too. But if you're serious about basketball, there's a different route that you have to take. What is the European method of it? Like, how many games do you play at a 12U, a 13U, 14? Because that's something that we just don't know, you know, back home. How many games do you guys play? What does your league look like? What goes with
I think over here in England, we don't play enough games. I mean, so we certainly, you know, when you say Europe, we look at England, and then of course you look at some of the top leagues like Spain and Italy. Now, for us here in England, we like to concentrate on the fundamentals, and we like to take that into the games. Now, I don't think we play enough games. I think some youngsters may play anywhere between 15 and 20 games.
Okay, for a season.
For a
like
season.
A winter season.
That's right. Now, I know in the States that could be 100.
Oh, absolutely.
You see, or more, which is probably a bit too much the other way.
Right.
And then when I look at Spain, it's very much all about the fundamentals with a nice balance of games, maybe 30, 35.
Gotcha.
But I think the key thing that we try to do with our youngsters here is whilst we're teaching them the fundamentals of basketball as a team game, we're also teaching them the fundamentals of basketball as their own individual skill.
Right.
Then what we look at is how do we take what we're teaching them as a team at that age and make sure it's the same thing that the kids are playing at 14 and 16 and 18 and the men. That is absolutely critical.
That's huge.
We developed a really successful program in Milton Keynes.
Right.
And at one stage in Milton Keynes, every youngster from the age of 9 through to the professional team were playing exactly the same system. And we were able to fast track youth players straight through that situation. So if a kid was good at 14, he could play with the under 18s.
Right.
If he was good at 16,
thing,
he could play with the men.
Okay, so tell me this then. That's huge. So then the kids that play at the club team, how many do you lose and will go play somewhere else or in the same city? You know what I mean? Is that often? Or
I'm in London now, so it might be a little bit different. In London, we've got 8 million people. In London, this is like being in New York.
Sure.
In Milton Keynes, which we had the greater development program, we didn't really lose many kids. If we lost kids, we lost them because they didn't want to continue at that level of basketball.
But they're not going. Here's the example. Here's an extreme example. I'm not going to just throw America under the bus. Extreme. In our area, we might have 10 teams, okay? Maybe 3 cities, 10 teams, not nowhere near as big as London. Parents will try out for every single team until their kid makes a top one. Go from team just to find out where they can play a top one. That doesn't sound, because the consistency is what you're saying, and that's the word that I'm hearing.
That's right. It's about the consistency, and I think we'd like to let the parents understand that. And I think parents will understand that if they can see a progression.
Right.
So if they know that their youngster is playing at this age and they can see other youngsters at the next level and the next level and they can see they're coming through that same system,
right,
I think they'll believe more in the system.
How often do they practice? And I'm just going to throw out a 12U, 13U. What is their week like? How many days a week do they practice?
Our youngsters, we like to practice with them 3 times a week.
3 times a week.
2 of those practices are team practices,
okay,
and the 3rd one is fundamental practice.
Nice.
And then they'll then have a fun session on a Saturday or games on the weekend.
Sure, okay. What I like to say and what I'm proposing and thinking about is that, winning and learning to win, I think at a young level is huge.
Yes.
Because also learning how to lose is big.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's a game, and it's all about what you're learning from the game. Because at a certain, you're done playing at some point, you gotta go get a job.
Yeah.
So I hope you learn more than a crossover, right? But I also think games are great tests to apply what you learned in a game situation.
Yes.
So that's that balance to me, like, hey, some games need to be like, let's go win.
That's right.
But other games need to be like, let's see if you can implement this crossover that we were working on under pressure, under fire.
Yes, yes.
Is that,
what we do with our coaches is we push the youngsters to execute what they've been practicing. Now, we believe
that's from a coaching standpoint.
That's
what the coaches are saying.
That's from a coaching standpoint. Yeah, this is what we do, and this is what we're training you for.
Break that down a little bit to me before you keep going. Is that meaning the 1-3-1 zone, or is that meaning like, hey, this jab step or this pick and roll that you guys are doing?
Well,
the individual skill stuff.
It's the individual skill stuff, and it's the execution of the plays. So, our youngsters, we don't actually play zone with them at a younger age. We will leave that till a lot later. Everything we do.
Can you say that again?
We don't play zone defense with our youngsters.
Okay.
We believe that, it'll stunt the development in and around them.
Okay.
So we believe it's about man-to-man defense. It's about the fundamentals of man-to-man defense. It's about the fundamentals of execution, your individual skill within our team concept.
Sure.
So from a playing point of view, it's important that they can carry that into a game.
Right.
From a life point of view, it's really about your experience within that game.
Absolutely.
Winning isn't the be-all and end-all, and we don't make it like that, but we make it, the execution of what we're doing has to be the be-all and end-all, because that will decide whether we win or we lose.
What we like to tell our players is, don't focus on the result, focus on the execution.
Absolutely.
Because if you
That's
execute
correct.
correctly,
that's correct. We're going to get the win anyway. Yeah, yeah. And life goes on whether we lose or not. And that's an important thing. It can't be. You can actually play well and lose.
Right.
You can play poorly and lose.
Right,
It's up to you how you deal with those situations.
It's game on. You're exposing us right now across seas right now. you're exposing us big time. But this is why I'm doing it. I want to step out of our culture. I want to talk to people who've been in basketball, who've got a different lens on it, more experience than myself, because what I want to do is make sure I'm leading our kids, our parents, in a correct direction. You know what I mean? And right now, kind of in America, I'm not against AAU, I'm not against Shabbat. I just don't think the system that we use is good for development. I think it's good for playing games, and I think that's fine for some players that decide that, hey, that's what they want to do. Basketball's a fun sport, child obesity, exercise, hands down. But once you make that decision that, hey, I want to play varsity basketball, that's what I want to do, Dad, Mom. Well, you've decided to take a different track, and what it's sort of back home what it is kind of chopping down some uncharted land right now. But I want to make sure that we have the backing, that we've done the proper research. So we hopped the flight to come to England, to go to Paris, to go to Rome, to sit down with guys like yourself, to just really research and just shut up and get some answers and see what you guys say.
I mean, we have young men that have taken different routes, but the fundamental route of what I described is what we do with all our young men. Sure. Now, we've got some young men now who are with us on the pro team right here. They're age 18, 19, 20, and their route is going to be to continue through that fundamental development, play locally in our local universities, but also play with the men here. Sure. And in 3 or 4 years' time, they will be 4-year pros, but they'll still only be 22. By the same token, we've also got young men who are over in the States right now. You know, we've got young men in college who are doing very well because that's the route and that's the dream that they had. Sure. So there's different routes to get there, but it's important that grounding is there to be able to deal with it.
Right, because it's all got to be built on you.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to play. If you can't perform, sit on the bench.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. What about from a rules standpoint? This is something, if I remember correctly, you guys have kind of one set of rules. Meaning like the younger kids, pro, it's one set of, you play on the same size
Yes, everything is the same. The ball is the only difference in terms of the size of the ball, but everything else is the same.
You play with a shot clock at the young age?
Yes, we do play with a shot clock at a young age, yes, we do.
Because, you know, and I'm sure you're familiar with American basketball, so our middle school court is smaller than our high school.
Right.
High school smaller than our college. College, we put in a shot clock.
That's right.
But I think that kind of throws people off because
I guess so. I mean, even now when you watch games from college and you're looking at a 35-second shot clock and you're wasting the first 20 seconds just keeping hold of the ball and moving around, nothing is actually happening. It's all fake until you get down to your last 15 seconds, 10 seconds. So for us, it's all about the 24-second clock, just like the NBA, and you know, everybody's used to that.
Sure, right, and then so that's just one less hurdle.
Yes.
At the next
as you move up, and I think that's the key is, can you get youngsters to move up in a comfortable fashion? And I think that's really important because now they move up. They're not having to deal with lots of other issues. They know the stuff. They've already run the stuff. They know what we're doing. So it's just about dealing with the physicality of the next level.
And the word that I use, that I tell parents why I'm not enamored with 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade basketball is puberty.
Yeah.
But that's going to change everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't know until that's happened what's going to happen. So, but having to deal with that is hard enough. But now having to change the rules or change the coach, change the system, change the team.
Very
there's
difficult.
So much going on.
Yes.
It's contradicting what we're really trying to happen, which is to get these young men and women to have a positive experience with basketball, play as long as they can. Some kids are done at 12 years. That's just a fact. Some of them should have a chance to go on at least play varsity level basketball, high school basketball for us. And so we're really trying to figure out the way, how can we help them? How can we give great knowledge to parents, be leaders to these children, and help them along, you know, along their journey.
I think it's critical, and I think the more that people can see the consistency and see the route that they're going down, I think that's what gives them the confidence.
Consistency. That's what I came for. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're in the middle of basketball practice. Thank you very much. I didn't mean to bother you, but I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.